Hi everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you my November wrap-up. Guys, November was an absolutely awesome reading month for me. Let's jump straight in and go over my statistics because November really was just a great reading month. So in the month of November, I read a total of 28 books. That is definitely the most amount of books that I've read in a month so far in 2017. So the 28 books was made up of 23 novels, 2 novellas, 2 graphic novels, and 1 manga collection. I read 16 books in physical format, 4 ebooks, and 8 audiobooks. So audiobooks was definitely helping me out this month. And then excluding audiobooks, as always, I read 10 books that I own and 10 books from the library. So an exact 50-50 split. So I'm pretty okay with that. I read a total of 9,869 pages, so just under 10,000 pages in a month. I'm so happy with that. So my average pages per day for the month of November was 329, which I'm so happy with because, as you know, if you've been watching my channel, I've been trying to keep my average pages per day for the month over 200. So for it to be over 300, and there were a few days within November where I didn't get any reading done at all, as particularly when I was in Sydney over the weekend. I got hardly any reading done over that kind of 3 days. So yeah, to manage to read 329 pages on average per day, I'm really, really happy with. The longest book I read in November was 699 pages, and the shortest book I read was 112 pages. The highest star rating I gave in the month of November was a 5-star. I finally broke my drought in November. If you've been watching my channel, you know that I had not rated a single book that wasn't a reread 5 stars prior to this month. So I'm so excited to finally have broken that. The lowest star rating that I gave was a 2.25 star, but I did also DNF a book. My average star rating for the month averaged out to 3.64. It's not my highest average rating for the month, but it is one of my better star rating months, which I'm really happy with given how many books that I did read. To read so many and have the average still be in like the upper area for me is really good. As I said, November was just an awesome reading month. So let's jump straight in. We're only going to be talking about the books that I read from the 16th through the 30th of November. I posted a mid-month wrap-up where I talked about the 13 books that I read in the first half of the month, which I'll link in the cards for you guys to check out if you haven't already. And then I'll be talking about the, as I mentioned, so the, 15 books that I read in the second half of the month in this video. I'm going to try to get through these as quickly as possible, but it is what it is. Let's jump in. The first book I want to talk about is Owning It by Leah Marie Brown. So this is the 4th book, I think it is, in the It Girls series. These books are just kind of really light-hearted chick lit romance type of books, and they are, the first 2 are sequels, and then the 3rd and 4th are more companion novels about side characters from the first book. This one follows a main character whose life is not going where she expected. Things are all kind of falling apart. She's just lost her job. She's in a car accident. Just everything's going wrong. When she gets a scholarship to a really prestigious art program within Paris. So she moves to Paris for I think it's 6 months to pursue this kind of art career, because being an artist and a painter is what she's always wanted to do. So she moves over there, and then she meets a man and a romance kind of ensues. This was pretty enjoyable, as most of these books have been. I had one major problem with this one in that the main character, I can't remember exactly how old she is, but I think she's around 25, and she's a virgin, which is fine. I don't like when YA books virginalize a main character, because I don't mind for some of them to be virgins because that's just accurate. Some people are virgins, some people aren't. That's a fine thing. And I actually don't mind the portrayal of someone that old being a virgin sometimes, because I think that's more the exception than the rule. And I like it being portrayed that it's okay if you're a virgin at that age. But that's not a bad thing. But when it comes to the time in the book when she is going to have sex for the first time, she says the line, "Make me a woman," and that really bothered me, because I don't like the insinuation that she wasn't a woman before she had sex, because you don't need to have had sex to be a woman. Or, I don't know, that whole thing just really, really bothered me. But apart from that, it was really enjoyable. But that one thing just kind of really, like, stuck with me and left a bad taste in my mouth. But it was really, really enjoyable. And in the end, I gave this one 3.25 stars. The next book I want to talk about is My Absolute Darling by Gabriel Talent. So this is a book that follows a girl who is she lives kind of on the outskirts of kind of a rural area, kind of very segregated from civilization, with her father. And all you kind of know from the synopsis is that she's living out there, and then she goes to the local middle school, and then one day she meets a boy from the high school, and then maybe she becomes a little bit interested in this boy, and she comes to realize that maybe the life that she's living with her father is not a normal life. First thing I want to say is that this is tagged on Goodreads as being young adult. This is not a young adult book. The main character is a 14-year-old girl, but the subject matter of this book is hugely inappropriate for a young adult audience, and I would not suggest that anyone, like, underage, like under like 16, at least 18 even, read this book. It has huge, huge, huge trigger warnings for sexual and parental abuse, for violence, and coarse language. And I don't just mean like she's like casual coarse language. The main character has a lot of hatred towards other women, and she uses words a lot. Like, she uses the C word a lot, and bitch, and things like that a lot, but in a really angry way. Like, it's not like a, you know, hey bitch. It's like, she's like angry, and you can feel the anger behind the words, and it is quite confronting language. So, huge trigger warnings. Now, I'm going to talk about this book, and some of the things I'm going to say could be like considered to be mild spoilers. So, the picture of the book should be on the screen somewhere. If you don't want to be spoiled like in any way, I'm not going to say any major spoilers, but if you don't want to be spoiled like about anything, skip past this book, because I've got a lot to say about this book, and I just don't feel like I could talk about it properly without giving away some like mild spoilers. So the main character of the book is being sexually abused by her father, and it was really hard to read about. It was really, really hard to read about. There are graphic scenes portrayed in the book of her father having sex with her, and it's just it's not an easy subject matter to read. And I appreciate some of the things that the author was trying to do, but I had just had such big issues with this. The boy that she meets at some point becomes aware of like some of the things that are going on, and it really bothered me that he didn't say anything to his parents. He's older than her. I think he's like 17 or 18 or something like that. He's a little bit older than her, or 16 even, I'm not sure. But he has really supportive, loving parents. And for him to have been aware of what was going on and not have spoken to his parents about it, or any adult about it, I cannot fathom. I understand her not saying anything because she's in this abusive situation, but if I at that age had been aware of anyone who was in that type of situation, I cannot imagine not having spoken to my parents about it and making some kind of adult aware of the situation. So I had a huge problem with that. I did think there was some really interesting commentary in this on loving a parent who is abusive. He is physically and sexually abusive, and it's made evident in the book that the main character really does love her father, and I found that really interesting because it's not a clear-cut issue of that he's doing these things to you so you don't love him. He is still her father. She still has loving feelings towards him. And for a lot of the book, especially the beginning part, she's not aware as much that this behavior is like as bad as what it is. I mean, she's obviously aware that other people would think it was a bad thing. Like, she doesn't talk about it to other people, but it seems like she's like kind of okay with it somewhat. Like, not that it's okay, but that she isn't like that bothered by it, I don't think, at the start, and then becomes, through meeting this boy and becoming a bit more exposed to the outside world and what other people think about it, comes to realize that, okay, this isn't okay. So there was some interesting things that I took out of it. I only rated this at 2.25 stars. I personally am an enjoyment-based reader, and I could not rate this any higher based on my enjoyment of it, because I did not enjoy this book. I just did not enjoy it. It was really hard to read. I thought it was overwritten. I thought the pacing was a bit weird. Like, I had a lot of problems with it apart from just the subject matter. But the subject matter, I think that this type of story can be told, like, can have elements of this type of subject matter and be done in a more, I don't want to say enjoyable because it shouldn't be enjoyable, but I didn't like this book. I really didn't. Like I said, I gave it 2.25 stars. I commend the author on some of the kind of things that I think they were trying to portray, but it really didn't work for me, and I just really didn't like it. So, from a book I hated to a book that I loved, A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this 5 stars. It was my first 5-star read of the whole year. I get it, you guys. Okay, I didn't expect to give this 5 stars. I know everybody raves about it, so you just assume that everybody reads it. It's hugely hyped. It must be good. And I thought I was going to enjoy it because I did enjoy the first book, but I didn't think I was going to love it as much as everybody else did. I really loved this. I really did. I thought this was really well paced. This book is, what is this? 624 pages, so it's over 600 pages. I was not bored at any point. The story just keeps moving. I thought there was great, the introduction of new characters was done really well, and I really liked all of the new characters. I thought the existing characters were developed wonderfully. Like I said, it was well paced. It has great romance in it. Like, it was just, everything about this book was just, yes, top notch. I gave this 5 stars. I can see why everybody loves it. I loved it too. Next, I read Giant Days Volume 4. I really did enjoy this. I mentioned when I read Volume 3 that it was starting to, the individual issues within the, like, trade were becoming a bit more episodic, and it didn't have as much flow. I thought that was rectified in this one. I thought it flowed a lot better, and I enjoyed it a lot more than Volume 3. It's so relatable. If you don't know, this is a graphic novel that follows 3 girls in their, like, university years in the UK, I believe, and a lot of it is just really relatable. This one, in this issue, they are dealing with trying to find, like, off-campus housing and how hard it is to find off-campus housing in, like, a university town. I personally never experienced that because we have a very different way of, like, most people don't house at uni in Australia. That's just not, like, how it works really here, but I've seen a lot of TV and stuff, and, like, I think a lot of people would find that really relatable, and it was just, I just think it's such a fun, relatable, funny graphic novel, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. Next, on audio, I listened to A Night to Surrender by Tessa Dare. This is narrated by Carolyn Morris, and I apologize, I should have mentioned My Absolute Darling by Gabriel Talent. I also listened to on audio, and that was narrated by Alex McKenna. So, this book by Tessa Dare is the first book in her Spindle Cove series. I read previously, had just finished the Castles Ever After series, and so I'm just slowly kind of working my way through Tessa Dare's romance novels because I do find them really enjoyable. This one, again, was really enjoyable. I did find that this one was more, I'm not going to say more problematic because I don't know if it was just more problematic or if it was just more noticeably problematic, but this one definitely had a bit more, like, problematic romance things in it, but I did still really enjoy it. I gave this one 3.25 stars. Next, I read the Fruits Basket Collector's Edition Volume 1 by Natsuki Takaya. So this is a manga series. I believe it's quite a long series that follows a girl who meets this like, group of boys that when a member of the opposite sex hugs them, sorry, it's not just boys, but, like, she starts off by meeting the boys, a couple of boys. They turn into the animal of the Chinese zodiac, so each of them is a different animal from the Chinese zodiac, and she does come to meet some other people who aren't just boys. There are girls as well who are members of the Chinese zodiac that turn into these animals when hugged by a member of the opposite sex, and it's kind of a contemporary series, and I believe it's a very popular manga series. I enjoyed it. It was okay. I think I'm going to give it another volume. Like, I enjoyed it, but I'm not, like, super into it, so I'm going to give it Volume 2 and kind of see how I feel about it, but I did enjoy it, and I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read Once Upon a Winter's Eve by Tessa Dare. This is just a novella in the Spindle Cove series. It's book 1.5. This was okay, but it was frankly a bit ridiculous, the plot of this one. It was set around Christmas time, but the plot was just, like I say, it was quite ridiculous. And in the end, I think just because of the ridiculousness, I didn't enjoy it as much, and I gave this one 2.75 stars. Next on audio, I listened to The Taken by Alice Clark Platts. This is the sequel to the book Bitter Fruits, which I had previously listened to on audio. Now, Bitter Fruits had like a full cast, like there was like 4 or 5 people who narrated that one, and one of the narrators of that book was the narrator of this one, Rachel Babbage, but just her. So I'm not sure if there was like, they didn't have as much budget, I'm not sure, but it was just one narrator in this one, which was fine. Rachel Babbage did an alright job. So this is a UK-based like police procedural mystery, but one of the things that I like about this police procedural mystery is that it's not evidence-based really. It's more about the detective really like interviewing the like suspects or people involved and really listening to them and trying to figure out from what she knows about these people and stuff. There is a little bit of, you know, them discovering things, but for the most part it's about talking to people and trying to listen to their stories and figure out like what's going on in their lives and going on with this mystery. So it is enjoyable. It's not my, again, I didn't love like the ending of it, but it is fairly enjoyable. I will say trigger warnings in this one for child molestation, so that's a thing. If you don't want to read about that, there is some elements of that within the crime. But in the end, this was enjoyable and I gave it 3.5 stars. Next, I read A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. This is obviously the third and I believe final book within the trilogy. I think there is a novella coming out now, and there's going to be more books set within this world, but following a different character, if I understand correctly. I enjoyed this. I don't think this is anywhere near as good as A Court of Mist and Fury, but let's be honest, that is a lot to live up to. I think Sarah J. Maas, I haven't read the Throne of Glass series, so this is the only Sarah J. Maas series that I've read, but I think she does battle scenes really well. I was really impressed with her battle scenes. I did really enjoy this. I see what people are saying. Sarah J. Maas's representation could definitely use some work. I understand that she doesn't have a lot of representation, and then the representation that she tried to put into this book, I presume, which was in response to people saying she didn't have enough rep, was problematic. I picked up on the problematic, there's some very tropey things put in here and problematic things about bisexual people that I was just like a bit ugh, and I picked up on that. And I've also read reviews that talked about it being quite ace-phobic. I didn't pick up on that myself, but I don't identify as ace, and people who have identified it as, who do identify as ace, sorry, have mentioned that as well. So her representation could definitely use some work, but overall I did really enjoy this and I gave this 4 stars. Next on audio, I listened to A Week to Be Wicked by Tessa Dare. This is the second book in the series. It's also narrated by Carolyn Morris. This one I really enjoyed. I really like the 2 main characters in this one. Tessa Dare does pretty well with like her female main characters and making them different from the time, like being different to what is expected of them. The main character in this one, Minerva, is very into geology, and she's like very good at geology and has all these findings and things and is very into that. And so I love that she does try to make her characters, you know, insert something about them that's a bit more about them trying to be above what a woman should be during that time. So I do really enjoy that, and I did really enjoy this one. Colin and Minerva were both really like fun main characters to read about. I gave this one 3.75 stars. Next, I read Nothing by Annie Barrows. This is a book that I was approved for on NetGalley, so thank you to NetGalley and the publishers. This is a young adult book about 2 best friends who talk about, at the start of the book, like nothing ever happens in their life, and if this was a YA novel, this is what would be going on, but nothing ever happens in their lives. And so one of the 2 best friends decides that she's going to write everything down that happens kind of, I think, in that year of their high school, and to prove that nothing ever happens to them. Well, it lives up to the title because nothing happens in this book. I thought that the writing was, it didn't flow, like it wasn't paced well. It was kind of convoluted and hard to follow, and this is a short book. Like I said, nothing happens. Overall, I appreciate what the author was kind of trying to do, but I just found it quite boring. In the end, I gave this 2.5 stars. Next on audio, I listened to They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I really, really liked this book. This is the first Adam Silvera book that I have read, and I will definitely be checking out more from Adam Silvera. So this one is narrated by Michael Crouch, Robbie Daymond, and Barney Turpin. I don't know if it's pronounced Barney because it's with an A, or if it's just pronounced like Bonnie. I'm not sure. I will say that one of the male narrators, and I'm not sure which one it is, did like some female voices at one part that were not great. But apart from that, I did really enjoy the audiobook. This book, if you don't know, I'm sure you do because it's very popular YA novel, is a contemporary novel that is set in kind of an alternate universe. Like, it's our world, but in this world, you receive a phone call on your death day, so the day you're going to die, letting you know that you are going to die that day. And so this book follows two teenage boys, one's 16 and one's 18, I think, or 17, 18, yeah, 17 and 18, I believe, who both receive a call that day saying that they are going to die, and they manage to connect on the Last Friends app, which is like an app you can use to find people to like spend your last day with, and they connect through that app and they spend their death day together. And this book was really, really good. I really liked it. It really made me think. I haven't read a book in a long time that really, really made me think. Like, this book had me constantly wondering, what would I do on my end day? And like, that's a hard question to answer. And you see that their lives and what's going on in their lives, and how, you know, getting this death day call, how that makes them want to spend their final day, and the different things that they want to do and try to do, but how can they do these things, and how other people in their lives are going to be affected by the fact knowing that they're going to die. And it's just, yeah, it deals with some full-on topics, and it is really sad, but it is a really, really good book. I didn't give it 5 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star book for me. It was a 4.5 star, but I definitely think this is one of my favorite books that I've read this year, and I did really, really enjoy it. Next, I read Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This is Gillian Flynn's debut novel, I believe, and this one follows the main character, Camille. She is a reporter for a newspaper, and she is given like a job. Is that what they're called? Like a project? I know that the word is used in here and it's escaping me. Anyway, she's given the job of going back to her hometown, which is like a small town in Minnesota, I think it is. And she has to go back to her small town because there is one little girl was murdered, found strangled in, like, and her body was found in the creek, and another little girl has just gone missing. So her boss sent her down to kind of look into these crimes and report on them. And there's all this stuff going on, like with her, you know, going back to her hometown and, you know, connecting with family and people that she, you know, hasn't seen in quite a long time. This is super dark. Super dark. Huge trigger warnings for self-harm in particular, but also trigger warnings for, what else are they triggering for? Rape and parental abuse, definitely in there, but self-harm is the huge, huge one. The main character is a cutter, and like, there are huge trigger warnings for self-harm within this one. I say this is dark. Parts of this were actually disturbing. There was one part, and it's like a throwaway line. It's not even really to do with the case in this. It's like a throwaway line when someone was talking about something else that actually kind of made me gag. That's how gross it was. I was just like, oh, like, yuck. But like, Gillian Flynn friggin' goes there. Like, she really goes there, and like, good on her. I didn't find the ending of this like particularly shocking. Like, I really saw like everything coming that kind of came out of this, but I really enjoyed the ride. Like I say, if you may not think, oh, she just said like it made her gag and it was gross, but she liked it. I don't mind that type of thing. I found it really enjoyable. I gave this 4.25 stars. Next, I read Plum Lovin by Janet Evanovich. This is book 12.5 in the Stephanie Plum series, so it's just a little novella between books 12 and 13. I enjoyed this. This is, again, kind of a... Janet Evanovich has another character, I think is the main character in another one of her series named Diesel, and this book is kind of like a crossover between the two series. So Diesel, it's set in the Stephanie Plum series, but Diesel makes an appearance in it. And I do like Diesel. I had really problems because there's some kind of supernatural elements that go on in that series that kind of come over into this, even though this is a contemporary series, and that still is a bit like whatever. But it was really enjoyable, and in this one, Stephanie has to take over some kind of matchmaking duties in this one, and I did really enjoy all the matchmaking portions, and it was just enjoyable, and I gave this 3.5 stars. And the final book that I read in the month of November was Lean Mean 13 by Janet Evanovich. This is the 13th book in the Stephanie Plum series. Again, I really enjoyed this one. It was as loony and unrealistic as ever, but I did really enjoy it, and again, I gave this one 3.5 stars. So I do also just want to touch on that Minimoji was going on from the 23rd through the 30th of November, and I was participating. I didn't participate as actively as I would have liked because I was away in Sydney for a part of it, and I was going to vlog, and I started vlogging at the start, and then I went to Sydney and I just didn't end up vlogging there at all, and then I got back and I just kind of forgot about it. So there's no vlog, which I apologize for, but I did want to touch on what I managed to read during Minimoji. So I finished 7 books during that 8 days, but 2 of them I'd already started. So I read 5 books completely and then 2 books partially. I read 2,360 pages during that 8 days, which again, I'm really happy with. So now I'll just go over the emojis that I did manage to kind of check off. So the first one was the Christmas tree emoji, which is the emoji for reading a book with green on the cover. And for that one, I used A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I was reading this during the readathon. This is green in my opinion. The next emoji that I managed to tick off is the ghost emoji, which is for a ghost of Christmas past. Read a book that has haunted your TBR for over a year. For that one, I used Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This has been on my TBR for about 2 years, I think, so that one definitely counts for this. Next is like the dinner plate emoji with like the knife and fork. For that one, the challenge was a book that features family or food. And for this one, I'm using Lean Mean 13 by Janet Ivanovic. Janet Ivanovich's Stephanie Plum books are constantly about family and food. Like, she's always going around to her parents' place, and her parents and her grandma always are making appearances, and she's always eating dinner around there. She's also very into like takeaway and like going through drive-thrus and like constantly getting donuts or cluck in a bucket, which I don't know if that's actually a thing over there, if that's fake, but she's always being, these books are always making me want to hungry, but like for not for good foods. They're always making me want to eat donuts and chips and or fries, I think they're called over there. Other delicious things. But so yeah, that one definitely works for that. Next is the Santa emoji, which is for a book with bad reviews, and for that one I'm using Nothing by Annie Barrows. I didn't enjoy this book, as I mentioned, but also I think the average rating on it on Goodreads is only like a 2.9, so definitely got some low ratings on that one. And next is the train emoji, which is for a book that features travel. For this one, I'm using A Week to be Wicked by Tessa Dare, which I was listening to on audio during the readathon. I went through these afterwards and realized that this one's a perfect fit. During A Week to be Wicked, the 2 main characters are kind of on a road trip. They're trying to, I mean, not in a car, obviously, because it's, you know, historical novel, but they're trying to travel from somewhere in England, I believe, to Scotland to get to this geology symposium, and there's lots of hijinks and stuff on the way, so this one's worked perfectly for that. Next, we have the musical notes emoji, which is to listen to an audiobook. For that, I'm using They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. And finally, there is the stack of books emoji, which is just the freebie challenge. So for that, I'm using Plum Lovin by Janet Ivanovic, because the other book that I read during the readathon. So I was really happy that I managed to finish 7 books and check off 7 emojis. I was really, really happy with my progress during the readathon, and it was a lot of fun. So that's it. That's everything that I read during November and Minimoji. I am really happy with my November reading month. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, if you have any thoughts. If you have read My Absolute Darling by Gabriel Talent, please talk to me about it. I would love to know someone else's thoughts on that book. How did your guys' reading month go in November? I would love to know in the comments down below. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. But that's all I've got for this video today. Bye, guys.